Excellent!
What's up, guys, and welcome to a sort of random Paul's Hardware video. What you were supposed to be seeing today was my April build. I was going to put it together. I was actually going to do it live, but when I was setting up out here to do a live stream this morning, I came across a big problem, which is that basically one of my two Panasonic Lumix GH4 cameras can no longer output via HDMI. It's like such a small problem, but also such a huge problem, and basically it means I wasn't able to do that video today, so instead I'm taking you guys along for the ride as I try to cope with this issue and hopefully get a replacement lined up. I'm actually somewhat proud of the configuration that I have set up out here in my garage to do things like live streaming computer builds, especially to do that all by myself, because it's usually all I have is me when I'm filming something or whatever. So this camera I will have connected with a AC adapter so that the battery can't go out, and then also an HDMI connector, which is this little adapter right there that plugs in right over there, and then long bits of cable which typically goes up and over in this big messy area up here, and then runs down over to my actual streaming system, which is over there in the corner, which actually does a really good job, and I have a couple capture cards set up for that one, external Razer one right here, as well as an internal one, and those capture via 1080, and they allow me to get a little configuration set up over here with a keyboard so I can switch between scenes and everything, and then my second camera I will typically have mounted to that mount right up there, pointing straight down so I can get a top-down view of what I'm doing. And then same kind of configuration, I'll have AC power brick coming from this line over there to keep everything powered, and then another HDMI cable that gets traced over there and connected back up to the streaming system. And then of course I've got my soundboard right there, which also has an XLR that goes over, so this little mic hanging down can actually pick up my voice as I'm talking and saying the things that I'm doing. And it was all going to be great. It was all going to be perfect. I had the build set up. I got my S340. I got my Ryzen 5 1600X right there, ready to go in. This is only going to be about a $1,000 build. This was actually the last piece I was waiting for right here, the Asus Prime B350 Plus motherboard. So I was excited because that actually arrived just this morning. I was like, cool, I can do this today. And then I was plugging in this camera, and basically it wasn't working. Whenever I plug in the GH4, the way that I know that it's actually outputting a signal is if the screen is on, and then you plug in the HDMI, the screen will turn off for a second, and then come back on. And that's always my signal that, hey, the camera is trying to output via that, via 1080, via the HDMI port that's down here. Now the problem here is that it's a micro port. Micro HDMI, which is not the best port. It's just not that sturdy. It's meant to be small, not necessarily sturdy. So I'm not sure how well you guys can see this in there, but basically, if you look at that center bridge, the main thing in the middle of the plug, there's gold contact leads that come up that are on either side of that. And on the top side, from our perspective right here, there are two of those leads that got kind of pushed back. This is a dental pick I'm using to point this out, but you can kind of see the two upper channels here and here where the lead isn't there anymore because it got pushed back into the plug. And this was purely the result of me plugging in and unplugging this over the past couple of years that I've had this GH4. So basically I am now able to still use this camera for camera functions like taking pictures and taking video. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the lens or the sensor or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with the SD card reader. It's still perfectly functional as a camera. However, because of what I do, and because it so often involves using the HDMI out on this camera to do live streaming or that kind of thing, I really need that to work. So here's what I've decided. First off, thanks to all the people who gave me some suggestions on Twitter, because that was the first thing I did when I discovered this, of course, was go on Twitter and complain about it happening. Had lots of good suggestions. Some people were saying to get a lock port or one of these specialized adapters. There's cages you can get that go around. I do have a cage that goes around the camera. They have ones that specifically go and hold on to the plugs here for your HDMI adapters, just to keep them from wiggling around or moving and that kind of thing. And while I've always been very careful with this port and plugging it in and keeping the plugs that go into it immobile as much as I can and everything, I'm definitely considering getting one of those adapters. However, to actually solve my problem, I would either have to replace this camera or have it fixed. I attempted briefly to fix it with that pick that you can see, but honestly those leads are way too down in there. Basically what would need to be done to repair this camera is disassembling it, removing the actual HDMI plug, whatever assembly that's part of, whether or not it's soldered to a PCB in there, I am not sure, and then resoldering probably a new plug down onto there that's fixed. And because I'm already very invested into this platform as far as the Panasonic GH4 goes, since I do have two of these cameras, that's why I bought the second one, was so I could do clean HDMI out on both of them. But I do have like some lenses. I also have the EF mount adapter for the Micro Four Thirds mount, so I can use my EF lenses with this. I also have like spare batteries that fit in here, and and the AC adapters as well. So I pretty much narrowed down my choices to, like, I ruled out like getting a Sony A7S or something like that. I was considering it, but I think I should stay with what I have all of the kit for. Could get another GH4. You can get those for in the $900 to $1,200 range, depending on where you're buying it from and if it's new and how shady they are. They also have the G85, or I think the G84. Is it G84 or G85? I'm not sure. They have one of those. That one's kind of interesting, but it actually doesn't have quite as good quality for the HDMI out. And I am still theoretically interested in capturing via the HDMI at a higher bitrate and a higher color depth. So what I've decided is to just bite the bullet and grab myself a GH5, the successor to the GH4, released fairly recently. Benefits there, I mean, this isn't a full side-by-side comparison, but the benefits are going to be, it's got a full-sized HDMI out over on this side, on the GH5 that is, so that's nice. I probably am going to get one of those adapters for it to try to preserve that plug as long as possible. It's also got a better sensor. I believe it is a bit higher megapixel quantity on the new sensor for the GH5. It also doesn't have the 4K crop like the GH4 has. Whenever you switch to 4K mode, it actually doesn't use the full sensor. And it can also do some higher resolutions. It can do like 4K 60 FPS and higher bit rates and stuff. So all that stuff in there is enough to convince me that, hey, I'll give the GH5 a try. But after deciding that, the next question was, where am I going to get the GH5? And it's really hard to find. It's sold out like everywhere. It's sold out on Newegg. It's sold out on Amazon unless you want to wait like 2 weeks for it to ship. It's sold out on B&H, but I did find it at Best Buy. So I was going to order it on Best Buy and have it shipped, but you know what? I found actually a local Best Buy that has supposedly a couple of them in stock. So let's do a road trip. Let's go to Best Buy for the first time in like over 10 years. Just a quick update, I'm driving now. I've made it here. There are actually lots of Best Buys kind of near me, but the only one I was able to find stock for the GH5 is this one, which is in frickin' Norwalk. A good 45-minute drive, but I'm gonna go inside. Cameras. Oh. Canon. Come on, my Canon. Okay, one more quick update. I actually went to the wrong Best Buy, so I've made my purchase, and they gave me this pink piece of paper and a receipt, and now I came from Norwalk to Downey, where they actually have the GH5. I'll be right back. Success. We have it. Okay, let's go home now. And I'm back home, and here it is, the GH5 retail box, freshly purchased from Best Buy. Before I move on for today and start working on some of the other projects that I keep telling people I'm working on but still haven't finished, I'm going to do a quick little unboxing of the new camera and give you guys at least a quick look. This is not going to be anything official as far as like listing off all the specs and that kind of thing. I do have a couple links that I'll post, or at least one link I'll post in the video, to a more full-featured review of this camera, if that's actually something that you're in, if you somehow came to watch this video thinking it was going to be more about the GH4 and less about just me dealing with some production issues today. But there's the inside of the box. We have the shoulder strap, which I will not be using most likely. We have camera body, which is in a little pouch. And so I'll come back to that since that's kind of the main event here. We have oh good, another power charger. Look, I get another battery. I get another battery charger dock and another cable for that, so that's kind of convenient. Also, we have a USB cable here. The GH5 does have USB Type-C instead of just the crappy USB, so they gave me an adapter cable for that, which is nice. This little guy, I don't even know what this is. I'm not really sure what this is. Looks like it mounts on there somewhere. It's a whole. Is this if this is like a clasp to hold in cables, that would be pretty funny. Maybe I'm not the first one who has damaged my GH4 in such a way. Hey, new battery. These are nice. I do love the battery life on the GH4. Hopefully the GH5 is going to be similar, because that's one of the really nice features about it, especially if you're taking it on the road or something like that. Finally, the body itself, and I did get the body only because that's all I really needed, and this was $2,000, which is pretty much what you got to pay for at retail right now since it is a new camera. So on here we got the micro four thirds sensor in there, although it does have a higher megapixel rating than the one that's on the GH4. The body itself is a little bit larger. Look, that's you can kind of see that. See the grip is a little bit larger on this one. Whatnot, they did move the actual record button for recording video up here, whereas on the GH4 it's back here. Other than that, the layout's pretty much the same, which is cool because I'm very comfortable with accessing the controls on the GH4, like easily switching between focus modes, which is pretty much in the same place right there. Oh, they have a little jog controller right there, a little joystick to navigate the menu, so that might be helpful. The screen does still flip out. They have improved the LCD screen. It's got a better pixels per inch count on there. It's still OLED touchscreen. They can fit more menu items on each one. And then of course, big old selling feature for me right here. Look at that, full size HDMI and USB Type-C. Sweet. Full size HDMI. Still not the most sturdiest connector, but much more sturdy than the micro. And since I'll hopefully have learned my lesson from this little experience, I do plan to get one of the little mounts on there. Still has a separate input jack, so you got separate connectors for mic as well as headphones, so you can have external audio recording directly to it. Obviously there are many other features to this camera. It's a very nice, pretty high-end mirrorless micro four thirds camera, and I'm looking forward to getting some use out of it. So I'll hopefully come back at some point and give you guys a little bit more feedback as far as my experience with the GH5. But for now, I should be able to get back up and running and hopefully even set this up to do that build that I have been promising, because I need to get that thing put together. That's going to wrap it up for this one though, guys. So if you did happen to enjoy it, I know it's not the normal type of video that I usually do, but go ahead and leave me a thumbs up or a comment down in the comment section, and I'll be back with more actual technology videos about computers and Ryzen and overclocking and all that good stuff very soon. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.